Have you ever met someone who seemed to have everything, money, success, power, but was secretly carrying a loneliness no one could see? And have you ever wondered how one simple act of kindness could completely change a life? What happened when a wealthy CEO drove onto a struggling farmer's land with a shocking message from her father was something neither of them expected. But the single dad's response would leave her speechless and change both their lives forever. Before we begin, if you enjoy heartwarming stories about kindness, compassion, and second chances, please subscribe to Heart Kindness Tales, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to people around the world. The dusty road leading to Ethan Carter's farm had not seen many visitors in years. Ethan stood by a broken wooden fence, wiping sweat from his forehead. At 38 years old, life had already tested him more than most people. His wife had passed away 5 years earlier after a long illness, leaving him alone to raise his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. The small farm had been in his family for generations, but keeping it alive had become harder every year. Between rising costs, bad weather, and mounting bills, Ethan often wondered how much longer he could hold on. Still, every morning he woke up before sunrise and worked until dark. Not for himself. For Lily. She was his entire world. One afternoon, the sound of an expensive SUV interrupted the quiet countryside. A sleek black vehicle rolled down the dirt road and stopped near the farmhouse. Ethan frowned. People driving cars like that never came to places like this. The driver's door opened. A woman stepped out wearing a cream-colored business suit that probably cost more than Ethan earned in a month. She looked confident, elegant, and completely out of place among the dusty fields. Ethan walked toward her cautiously. "Can I help you?" he asked. The woman smiled politely. "My name is Victoria Reynolds." Ethan recognized the name immediately. Everyone did. Victoria Reynolds was the CEO of one of the largest agricultural companies in the country. "What brings someone like you here?" Ethan asked. Victoria hesitated. For the first time, she seemed nervous. Then she said something so unexpected that Ethan nearly laughed. "My father said you needed a wife." Silence filled the air. Ethan stared at her. Surely he had heard wrong. "I'm sorry," he said. "What did you just say?" Victoria looked embarrassed. "My father owns the ranch next to yours." Ethan suddenly understood. Old Samuel Reynolds. The elderly rancher had been his neighbor for years. Samuel often stopped by to chat and occasionally brought homemade pie for Lily. Victoria continued. "He recently became concerned about you and your daughter. He keeps talking about how hard you work and how you're trying to do everything alone." Ethan shook his head. "So he sent his CEO daughter to find me a wife?" Victoria couldn't help laughing. "When you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous." "It is ridiculous." For a moment, they both laughed. But then Victoria's smile faded. "My father worries about people. Especially lonely people." Something in her voice caught Ethan's attention. "You sound like you're speaking from experience." Victoria looked away. The confident CEO suddenly seemed vulnerable. "My father worries about me too." Ethan didn't say anything. Sometimes silence is the kindest invitation someone can offer. After a few seconds, Victoria spoke again. "I built a successful company. I have money, awards, recognition." She forced a smile. "But I haven't had dinner with a friend in months." Ethan was surprised by her honesty. "You look like someone who has everything." Victoria laughed softly. "That's what everyone thinks." At that moment, Lily ran out of the farmhouse carrying a sketchbook. "Dad!" She stopped when she noticed the stranger. Victoria smiled warmly. "Hello." Lily shyly waved. Then she noticed Victoria's expensive clothes. "Are you famous?" Victoria laughed. Not really. My teacher says famous people wear fancy clothes. Ethan tried not to smile. Victoria knelt beside Lily. What are you drawing? Lily opened her sketchbook. Page after page showed colorful drawings of animals, farms, and family moments. Victoria's eyes widened. These are beautiful. Lily beamed. Most adults barely glanced at her drawings. But Victoria carefully examined every page. That simple act meant everything to the little girl. Ethan noticed. For the first time, he saw something beyond Victoria's business success. He saw genuine kindness. As the afternoon passed, Victoria stayed longer than planned. She helped feed chickens. She listened to Lily's endless stories. She sat on the porch drinking lemonade while Ethan talked about farming challenges. For the first time in years, the farm felt filled with laughter. When the sun began setting, Victoria prepared to leave. But before she got into her SUV, she asked a question. Can I visit again? Ethan smiled. Lily would probably be upset if you didn't. Over the following months, Victoria returned often. At first, she came because of her father's strange suggestion. Later, she came because she enjoyed being there. The farm offered something money could never buy. Peace. Meanwhile, Ethan and Lily discovered something unexpected about Victoria. Behind the successful CEO was a woman carrying deep loneliness. She had spent years chasing achievement while neglecting relationships. She knew how to lead thousands of employees. But she had forgotten how to simply enjoy life. One day, Samuel Reynolds became seriously ill. Victoria rushed to the hospital. Ethan and Lily went with her. Samuel smiled when he saw them standing together. I knew it, the old man whispered. Victoria rolled her eyes. Dad, don't start. But Samuel chuckled. I wasn't trying to find Ethan a wife. Everyone looked confused. What? Victoria asked. Samuel smiled weakly. No. His eyes filled with tears. I was trying to find my daughter a family. The room became silent. Victoria's eyes widened. For years, Samuel had watched his daughter bury herself in work. He knew she wasn't happy. And he knew Ethan and Lily carried their own loneliness. He hadn't been trying to fix people. He had simply been creating an opportunity for kindness to connect lives. Months later, Samuel recovered. And life continued. But nothing was the same. Victoria spent less time chasing success and more time building relationships. She helped Lily attend a prestigious art program. Not because she could afford it. Because she cared. Ethan helped Victoria discover the simple joys she had missed for years. Family dinners. Campfires. Conversations without business agendas. And one evening, as they sat watching the sunset over the fields, Victoria finally asked Ethan something she had wanted to know for a long time. When I first told you my father said you needed a wife, why didn't you get angry? Ethan smiled. Because I knew your father. Victoria waited. Ethan looked toward the horizon. And because kindness has taught me something important. What? He squeezed her hand gently. Most people don't show up because they have answers. Victoria smiled. Why do they show up? Because someone cares enough to knock on the door. Victoria sat quietly as tears filled her eyes. At that moment, she realized the greatest gift in life wasn't wealth, power, or success. It was human connection. It was kindness. It was showing up for someone when they needed it most. And sometimes, one small act of caring can change multiple lives forever. So if this story touched your heart, remember this: you never know what burden someone else is carrying. A kind word, a listening ear, or a simple visit might become the turning point in someone's life. Kindness doesn't require wealth or status. It only requires a willing heart. And when we choose kindness, we create the kind of world where no one has to face their struggles alone. Victoria sat quietly as Ethan's words settled deep in her heart. For years, she had measured life by numbers. Profit margins. Quarterly reports. Market growth. She had spent so much time building a successful company that she had forgotten how to build meaningful relationships. But sitting beside Ethan on that old wooden porch felt different. For the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about business. She was thinking about home. As the weeks turned into months, Victoria became a regular part of life on the farm. Every Friday evening, she drove out from the city. Lily would run down the driveway the moment she saw the familiar SUV. "Victoria's here," she would shout. The farmhouse that once felt lonely now echoed with laughter. Victoria helped Lily with school projects. She attended her art exhibitions. She even learned how to bake cookies, though her first few attempts ended in disaster. The kitchen would fill with smoke, and Ethan and Lily would laugh until tears rolled down their faces. Instead of feeling embarrassed, Victoria laughed too. Those moments became her favorite memories. One afternoon, Lily came home from school looking upset. She quietly sat at the kitchen table and stared at her homework. Victoria noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" she asked gently. Lily hesitated. Then she whispered, "Mother's Day is next week." The room grew quiet. Ever since losing her mother, Mother's Day had been painful. Victoria walked over and sat beside her. "You miss her today, don't you?" Lily nodded. Tears filled her eyes. Victoria wrapped an arm around her shoulders. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Sometimes kindness isn't about finding the perfect words. Sometimes it's simply about being there. Finally, Lily looked up. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course. I think my mom would have liked you." Victoria felt her throat tighten. "Really?" Lily smiled softly. "You're kind like she was." Victoria couldn't hold back her tears. No business award she had ever received meant as much as those simple words. That night, after Lily went to bed, Victoria sat on the porch with Ethan. He noticed she seemed emotional. "You okay?" he asked. Victoria smiled through her tears. "Lily said something today." When she repeated Lily's words, Ethan became quiet. Then he looked toward the stars. "My wife would have liked you too." Victoria lowered her eyes. "Thank you." Ethan nodded. "You've brought happiness back into this house." For a moment, neither spoke. The cool evening breeze moved through the fields. Then Ethan smiled. "You know, when you first arrived here, I thought you were completely out of your mind." Victoria laughed. "Only at first?" "Well, maybe for several weeks." They both laughed. It felt easy. Natural. Comfortable. And that comfort slowly grew into something deeper. Not because either of them planned it. Not because Samuel had hoped for it. But because kindness had created trust. And trust had created love. Nearly a year after Victoria's first visit, the entire community gathered at the local fair. Lily had entered several paintings into the youth art competition. She nervously stood beside her artwork while judges reviewed the entries. When the winners were announced, Lily won first place. She couldn't believe it. Tears streamed down her face as she accepted the ribbon. The crowd applauded. But Lily didn't run toward the judges. She didn't run toward her friends. She ran straight toward Ethan and Victoria. Throwing her arms around both of them, she shouted, "We did it." The word slipped out naturally. "We." Not I. We. Because in her heart, they had become a family. Victoria looked at Ethan. Ethan looked at Victoria. Neither needed to say a word. They both understood. Months later, on a beautiful autumn evening, Ethan invited Victoria to the same spot where they had watched countless sunsets together. The fields glowed gold beneath the fading sunlight. Victoria smiled. "This place has become my favorite place in the world." Ethan reached into his pocket. Her heart immediately began racing. "Victoria," he said softly. She covered her mouth. "I spent years believing I had lost everything when my wife passed away." His eyes filled with emotion. "But life has a way of surprising us." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "You showed up when we needed a friend." Ethan smiled. "You gave Lily someone to believe in." Then he took a deep breath. "And somewhere along the way, you gave me a reason to hope again." Slowly, he got down on one knee. "Will you marry me?" Victoria could barely speak. Tears streamed down her cheeks. The powerful CEO who could negotiate billion-dollar contracts suddenly couldn't find a single word. Finally, she laughed through her tears. "Yes." Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger. At that exact moment, Lily jumped out from behind a nearby hay bale. "I knew it," she screamed. Victoria and Ethan burst into laughter. Apparently, she had been secretly watching the entire time. She ran toward them and wrapped her arms around both of them. As the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, the three stood together beneath the evening sky. A farmer. A CEO. And a little girl whose heart had helped bring them together. Years later, people would often ask Victoria what the greatest achievement of her life had been. Many expected her to mention her company. Others assumed she would talk about wealth or business success. Instead, she always gave the same answer. "The greatest thing I ever built wasn't a company." People would look confused. Then she would smile. "It was a family." And it all started because one elderly father cared enough to notice loneliness in others. A simple act of concern became an act of kindness. That kindness created friendship. Friendship created healing. And healing created love. The truth is, kindness often works that way. We rarely see its full impact in the beginning. A small gesture can become a life-changing moment. A conversation can become a friendship. A friendship can become a family. And one caring decision can change generations. So wherever you are today, never underestimate the power of kindness. A single act of compassion may seem small, but it can open doors you never imagined. Like Samuel, choose to care. Like Victoria, choose to show up. And like Ethan, choose to keep your heart open even after hardship. Because kindness has a remarkable way of finding its way back to us, often when we need it most. Red Heart.